Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to rise in the House today to speak to this bill. And I have to say, there are some times when I thought that this would never happen because there seem to be so many delays and for political reasons to accommodate a political agenda. But I'm very glad that finally this bill is before Parliament, that it is being debated, and I hope very much that the bill will be approved and that it won't be so drawn out that somehow it gets lost again, because I think it's probably one of the most important pieces of legislation that we will deal with for a very long time. And the first thing I want to say, Mr. Speaker, is that I'm very proud that the member for Burnaby Douglas, who was our lead-off speaker on this debate last Wednesday, that he rose in the House and that he spoke with such great courage and shared with us very personal information about his own life as a gay man, his partner of 24 years, Brian. And as I sat and listened to that debate, I felt very proud to be a member of this caucus and this party where our leader, the member for Toronto Danforth, has been so clear on what the position of the NDP is. So I'd like to really thank the member for Burnaby Douglas for speaking out in such a strong and forceful way, and I think really giving a human face, a real face, to what this debate is about. And I'm very proud of our leader as well, who has done the same thing. And, you know, to me, this debate is not about tolerance. And I listened to the comments from the Minister of Defence just a little earlier, and he said he would be very proud when this bill passes. And I would certainly agree with him, and I think he made a very fine speech. And I, too, will be very proud when this bill passes, as I hope it does. But I think it needs to be said that this bill, if it were left to the Liberals and the Conservatives, would not pass. And it really begs the question as to the reality that we have a Prime Minister on the one hand who has spoken about the values of human rights and dignity and respect to the Canadian people, but on the other hand has allowed his own members to have a free vote. And I think that's unfortunate. And listening to the Minister of Defence and the questions and comments that came later, to me it isn't about, this bill is not about some notion of tolerance. I actually don't even like that word, that we somehow tolerate other people that we see as being different from ourselves. And that there's a sense of judgment in that, that we'll tolerate somebody on the basis of their beliefs. To me, this bill and this debate is about rights, it's about dignity, and it's about individual liberties, and it's about individual choice. I'd also like to say and recognize the work that was done by the former Member of Parliament for Burnaby Douglas, Mr. Robinson. And I remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when I stood in this House to support his bill on same-sex marriage. It was a private member's bill. And certainly Mr. Robinson has been at the forefront in Canada of the campaign and the movement and the struggle for gays and lesbians to seek equality. And I think that the work that he took on in the early years when he first came out, when it was very difficult, it was painful, and certainly there was a backlash, the courage that he displayed that allowed many of us to come forward and pave the way for gay and lesbian rights in this country is something that needs to be remembered and recognized and valued for the work that was done. I was also very proud to be part of the press conference on February 14th, Valentine's Day, with the member from Burnaby Douglas and the member from the bloc, Hochelaga. The three of us engaged in a press conference because we wanted to speak out as gay and lesbian members of the House. We wanted to talk about our own lives, and we wanted to put that before the House. And although there was some tough questions, and we were dealing sometimes with a situation that was confrontational and controversial, I was very proud because I think what we were trying to say is that we wanted this debate and we wanted this issue to be about dignity and respect. And that was the message that we brought to that press conference and that we bring to this debate. I was here last Wednesday, February 16th, when the debate began, and I listened to the Prime Minister, and I actually really appreciated the history that he gave about the Charter and about equality and where it's come and how it's evolved, and I think it was very important to put that on the record. I also listened to the leader of the official opposition, the leader of the Conservative Party, and the thing that struck me the most about his speech, and I think he spoke for more than an hour, the thing that struck me the most even though some people may believe it was a very eloquent speech and a very heartfelt speech, what struck me was that it was very unreal. It was very out of touch with real people's lives in Canada. And in fact, today I was on the radio debating with a Conservative member, the member from Cambridge, and as we were debating this bill, he told me and he told the listeners that he felt that the speech of his leader was something like a doctoral thesis. I guess he was very impressed with the speech, and he thought it was very academic, and it covered all kinds of legal points from his perspective, and he likened it to a doctoral thesis. And in fact, he then went on to say, and this again was in the radio debate and interview that we had this morning, is that he felt that this bill before us was taking away his rights, the Conservative members' rights, in terms of marriage and the institution of marriage. And I have to say that I have some real trouble understanding the meaning of this argument and where it was going. I certainly did not see the speech from the Conservative Party leader as a doctoral thesis. I mean, maybe it would serve well as some doctoral thesis, but to me, fundamentally, this debate comes down to dealing with the reality of people's lives and how we do treat people as a society, and especially minorities. So, after all the legal arguments are said and done, and we've had all of these court cases that have happened, very significant court cases, I mean, the legal route and the litigation that happened was incredibly important, and it paved the way for this debate to happen. But at the end of the day, I think what we are dealing with is a matter of people's individual choices and lives, and what we choose to do in terms of getting married or not. So when the member from Cambridge today said that this debate for him was about taking away his rights, I have to say I really don't understand that. I don't understand how strengthening and enlarging the definition of civil marriage is taking away anybody's right. As I've said before in this House, this bill and same-sex marriage is not about forcing the member from Cambridge or the member from Calgary Southeast to marry a man if they don't want to. There's nothing in this bill that creates harm. There's nothing in this bill that undermines the institution of marriage. And in fact, on the contrary, and I think as the member from Burnaby Douglas pointed out so beautifully in his speech, this debate and this bill is about actually strengthening the institution of civil marriage. It's about strengthening people's commitment to one another. So to come back to the Conservative leader's speech, as I said, what I was struck by was sort of the lack of humanity. If this debate is only about theoretical legal issues, and if that's the only part that the Conservative leader can attach himself to, is that if that's the only way that he can debate it and reconcile whatever is going on in his mind, then I think he's really missed the point. And he's missed it on the basis of what is happening out there for a lot of people. So I wanted to make that point. In fact, what he did and what the Conservative Party offers up to us is this notion of a civil union. And I've heard this so many times from different Conservative members, and I have to say that we have to reject this notion. I think if years ago there had been a debate about ending marriage as we know it as an institution, and that the debate for everybody was about, well, let's all go to a civil union, well, then it would have some merit. That debate would have some merit. But at the 11th hour, to bring in an argument and to rest your case on the idea that a civil union is going to do it, I think is a really false notion. And I think people see it that way, as simply a rationale and a smokescreen to negate the real issue here, which is about equality in marriage. And I have to say that if the institution of marriage is good enough for straight people, if it's good enough for a man and woman, then why isn't it good enough for two women or two men if they choose to make that decision?